AoEs are my favorite method of attacking, so when I saw Captain Commando here, I was already hooked, and man may I tell you that this guy does some crazy AoE work that just feels so unfair. You know, just as long as you're building him as offensively as you could. So let me show you guys what he's all about, and I'll show you guys how to build him. So with this talent, his AoE does more damage that increases more when battling enemies without any soldiers. After actively attacking, gains 1 stack of passion per battle that increases mobility, attack, and defense. That stacks 3 times, cannot be dispelled, and lasts for 2 turns. After taking action, if the number of passion stacks has reached the limit, any buffs on him do not lose their turn duration and can act again once, which has a cooldown. And of course, these things get better the higher his star level is. And I do recommend getting him to at least 5 stars due to that. If you want to see him perform extremely well, maybe 4 stars is good enough. Getting those passion stacks sound tedious. Luckily, his skills helps him a lot with those issues. Plus, he has a revive. Now his best class will be the left side due to having more AoE damage when he has 6 or more buffs from his bond. However, his right side is a tiny bit defensive. Although I don't really recommend it because it's not really a lot, plus you're not getting a whole lot out of it, as he's all about just doing damage. With his Mastery Stones, you want HP, attack, and skill for all of them. However, the armor, you can replace skill with defense, and then with the headwear, you can do defense or magic defense. Then with the Arena Stones, I highly recommend an offensive set. However, if you're looking for something balanced, then that's passable too, with the last one being either crit rate or crit damage. The soldiers that he's got going for him is the Fang Guard. They're quite balanced overall. If you truly want something defensive, then I highly recommend using the Guardian Infantry. Physically, they're the best one that you can use. If you're facing cavalry enemies, then I highly just recommend going Phalanx. Also really amazing soldiers. If there is ranged enemies, then you want to use the Aegis Guard. His best weapon will be the Balance Blade for more AoE range. There's a Blood Sword for fixed damage. If not any of those, then Mimir is nice for sustain. If you don't have any of these 3 best picks, then I recommend just using something to just boost his attack, like the Sealed Guardian. Just something as plain as that. He's heavily focused on AoE, so you want something related to that. So if you don't have any of those, just use any of the attack increase weapon, as he won't really benefit from using single target weapons, because obviously, he's not a single target attacker. An armor that you want is the battle armor, the best choice for everyone, literally. Time Mat to guarantee taking less magic damage, but you always gotta be in mixed forces. Then either Aeolus to take less range damage, or Bloodline to take less melee damage. You may have noticed what I have on is the carbon fiber armor, which if you're at above 50% HP, your defense and magic defense is raised, but if below the nats, then your attack and skill are increased, which combined with this revive, you can reach that. The same case with the carbon fiber helmet too, though I do recommend the tier since it's more consistent and easier to get those buffs. But if you just want to use something defensive, then you can use the Aeneas for the stat boost, or Winged Twilight helmet, so when it gets attacked, whatever defensive stat is higher, the other one gets increased. With the accessory, it'd be great if you have the wings or apex boots for the mobility. He's really going to need it as it will suck at the start, until eventually he gets to ramp up. Otherwise you can use something with kill power like Judge, Slayers, or Prisoners, but let's say you don't have any of those or you just want something situational. The Shin Guard for the defense and Blood Nail for the silence immunity. They're fine to use since they still maintain a lot of attack. As with enchants, magic to go full-fledged on damage or breeze if you really need that mobility. The enchant stats that you want is HP attack, defense with magic defense. Like, I'll say they're best if you can get it on the armor and helmet, but you really should just focus on HP attack. Then with accessory, if you can get skill as a third substat, even better. But like I said, just always focus on HP and attack. However, if you get tons of attack on your weapon and accessory, it's totally fine if you want to leave it at that. Alright, so hopefully you guys have an idea on how to build your Captain Commando. So now, let's go ahead and check out the first working stage. Alright, so for this one, you can be up against Lolly Jessica, Captain Mac, and then finally Bozo. So with the skill selection, I really recommend going what I have right here. So the 1C can just be this one. It's really just what you want. Or if you're just really worried, then I would recommend this. You know, Revive is good, but what I'm going to show you guys, you're not going to need it. Then I really recommend having Roar, and then have this one where you stun the enemy. Then with the soldiers, I recommend having any attack soldiers, so Vanguard is going to be useful, the Griffin Knight, Mechanical Dragon, because we're going to go on the offensive. Though you can still use the Guardian Infantry in the Phalanx if you have those guys upgraded, but just be warned that you're not going to be doing a lot of damage with those guys. So at the start, we're just going to approach safely. Lolly Jessica will always use her strength and skill on Captain Mac here unless you approach the danger zone in here, so it'll be like a 50-50. So we approach one more time and then Lolly Jessica will be in our range. So here is where you want to use the 2C, and so this way by doing this, we're going to go with the stun while also doing quite a bit of damage too. Thankfully for his talent, doing massive AoE damage. So from here, I will just use a normal attack, but if you really have to, go with the single target attack, and then that will kill her. And so, with Captain Mac approaching us, you really want to attack right here, because of his talent stack. If you don't, and you just walk away, his talent stack is going to go away. And we want 3 stacks of these, because it will allow us to act again. Which when we attack Captain Mac, we will get that 3rd stack. So let's go ahead and just use an AoE to attack pretty safely here, doing half of his HP, which is nice. We're going to go ahead and use our single target skill that we saved. Some of you guys, you may have to use a normal attack if we already used it on Lolly Jessica. And here we're positioned very nicely to just barely reach Bozo here. And you really want to attack right away since your skill is up and you want to make good use of the talent stack that you have. Otherwise, if you don't, it's going to go away, therefore losing your mobility and your attack. So just go ahead and use the 2C stun to be very safe here, guarantee stun right there, and we end up finishing off with the blood sword. But yeah, it was going to be the same method dealing with Lolly Jessica. Go with the stun, and then on next turn, take him out. So if you really want to take advantage of the talent stack, it's going to be fast paced. And you kind of want to do it because 1, you get a lot of attack, and 2, the extra mobility is really nice. Especially when dealing with Lolly Jessica because her range is going to build up exponentially. And then with Captain Mac, he's quite defensive as well. Aquatic soldiers are known to be one of the more defensive type of units. So yeah, hopefully this method helped you guys out. Alright, with the 3C, something that you definitely want on him because of the passive, where after taking action, if all mobility was used up, he gains 1 stack of passion. It's an AoE that attacks within 3 blocks around him and deals an extra AoE damage to nearby enemies. After attacking, he applies electric shock. So before when using their skill, they will take fixed damage, and the multiplier is increased with each turn of the skill cooldown that lasts for 2 turns. So I highly recommend it in PvP, otherwise it's going to be really difficult to ramp him up, and the debuff here is quite interesting. I've seen cases where this hits a lot, like 7k, and with how hard of a hitter that Captain Commando is, if they somehow end up surviving his let's say double AoE, they're most likely going to be very near death. And so if they're not paying attention or have no healers, they either would have to take things very slow or just get punished for not reading. Alright, so if you guys are curious, this is what this 3C animation looks like. I really wish they had actual voice actors. Sometimes dialogue is okay-ish, sometimes kind of a bit weird. Alright, so for the second awakening stage, it did look like it was kind of a bit strange. Basically what I did was that I had Owen and Lolly Jessica move up. I had her buff herself up since she would be the one that would actually be actually killing stuff. And then I had Mac and Captain Commando position themselves to have the other Captain Commando use his AoE as bait. And I was carrying a revive skill too. But Mac came all the way in, therefore blocking out the other Commando. And so I just had Lolly Jessica took him out, which she one-shotted. And then I tried to position again to where Mac and Commando would get hit by the AoE, but then Lolly Jessica gets hit instead of my own Commando. And so the plan just kind of failed right there. And so what I did after that was I had my own Commando use AoE to do a little bit of damage, and then I had Mac finish him off. And then I had Lolly Jessica one-shot the Owen. And I didn't realize it, but Captain Mac was in position of the enemy Lolly Jessica, therefore she wiped him out. It was all fine since it was a 3v1, so I was kind of surprised that my own Commando was able to reach it, so I did that, and then I went for the stun. And this was nice because I was able to pull her away. But then he got to act again and actually killed her. So I definitely could have played it a bit better. Definitely just some variables that I was not expecting, therefore it looked kind of clustered. But thankfully I was able to draw Lolly Jessica away from my teammates because she would have been the one to actually do some damage, and I actually minimized the enemy commando not using his AoE as much because it would have hurt really bad. So it wasn't a perfect method that I hopefully would have done, but the best that I did was able to minuscule the damage done to me. So I'm not actually sure how useful this would be, but so hopefully this still helped you guys out. Otherwise, you guys could definitely play a lot better than I did. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into his showcase. Alright, here we are. Let's have a rundown on his talent. He gets an AoE damage boost and does a lot more against enemies without any soldiers. After attacking, he gets 1 stack of passion that increases mobility, attack, and defense, which stacks 3 times, cannot be spelled, lasts for 2 turns. After taking action, if the number of passion stacks has reached the limit, any buffs on the caster will not lose their turn count and can act again, which has a cooldown depending on his star level. So after doing any form of attack, so we can do his AoEs, he'll get stacks of his talent stacks, the passion, and I'll play a sound cue. And by checking out his buffs, you can see what we just talked about. And because we got 3 of them before he ended his turn, we were able to get it in one single turn due to like a little thing that I'm about to show you guys later. We were able to act again right away. So yeah, just very straightforward, nothing too special or way too difficult. And in fact, I'm just gonna show you guys what it looks like if I just get 1. So instead of just getting all 3 like you guys saw earlier, we just got 1. So yeah, that's really all about there is to it. You know, the huge AoE damage boost that you guys saw on the talent is very similar to Awakener, where it only works on enemies who never had any soldiers to begin with. So that includes enemies like the Eternal Temple bosses and the dragons. You know, if you click on the description, if you don't see any soldiers on them, that's how you know. You can't just straight up wipe out their soldiers and expect that damage boost. That's not how it works. So with the 1C skill, it attacks nearby enemies within 1 block. When he has more than 1 stack of passion, he does more damage for each stack, and the skill has a cooldown. So with 0 stacks, he gets to punch 1 time. 0, 1 stack, punches 1 time. 2 stacks, punches twice. Then finally with 3 stacks, as you can expect, punches 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then if you just go ahead and take a look at this thing, you can see the cooldown does decrease for each stack. So if you have 2, it just reduces by 1 because if you just read it again, it does only take effect if you have more than 1 stack. At 3, it's a full refresh. So yeah, I honestly really like this skill, like the way how it works. Just the visual clarity of it, because he's straight up just throwing hands. I love it. So with this other 2C skill, which you guys may have saw me use in the first Awakening stage, all it is that it's an AoE that attacks enemies within 1 block that randomly moves them while also stunning them. So I can't imagine anyone really using this because his other 2C skill is just so much better in every possible way. If it was a 1C skill, then yeah, I would give it a pass, but as a 2C skill, no one should be using this. So we go all the way back. This is a skill that you guys recently saw me use and something that you always want to bring. It's his best 2C skill for a reason. It teleports him within 3 blocks and attacks enemies to the furthest 3 blocks in 3 straight lines, while increases the damage taken for 2 turns. If it's 2 or more enemies, gains 1 stack of passion. So yeah, not only does this allow him to reach further than normal, but you're applying this damage taken debuff, and not only that, getting a stack of passion. Not only is that very good, but it is one of the reasons why he's able to act again right off the bat, starting at 0 stacks. And part of the reason for that is his 3C passive, where if he uses all his mobility, he gets 1 stack of passion. It's also an AoE skill that does an extra damage if there's enemies nearby. Afterwards, he applies electric shock to the enemies, where before using their skills, they take fixed damage that's not only based on his attack, but also based on their skill cooldown, which lasts for 2 turns. And let's go ahead and show off the skill before I want to say more about it. So yeah, that is a skill that you always want to end up using on his act again, because his 2C is what he's always going to be using to approach. So now we check their enemies' buffs. You can see this like this interesting looking debuff with a funny looking icon. So we're going to end our turn and our commando here is going to die, but you can see the effect taking place. And most of the time, at least most of the time, maybe by the end of his second act again, you know, when he's using his 2C into his 3C, if they somehow live, they should most definitely be like barely living if they don't have like a healer to save them. And so that really only gives them like a few options, because if they end up using a skill, they're just gonna get punished for it. So that will kind of force them into like having to do nothing. So the way how I kind of want to show you guys is the way how you want to use Captain Commando is, if given the opportunity, If you see the chance like this maybe, but what you're really aiming for is at least 2 enemies. If you get more than that, then that's good for you. So here's the deal. The way how you want to instantly get his third stack into at the game right away is 1 is where he attacks the enemy. 2, hit at least 2 or more enemies with this 2C. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone here because you get 1 stack of passion and also reducing their damage taken. So that means his 3C can hit even harder. And what's also on this 3C? Passive on it. If you're using all of his mobility, he gets 1 stack of passion. And that is very important. Make sure you always do this. If not, then he's gonna end up at 2 stacks. So as you guys saw me do earlier, just use this, and I didn't mention it earlier, but this 2C is kind of weird because it only goes left and right. I don't know why they made it like that. So yeah, again, getting 1 stack for attacking the enemy, a second one for hitting at least 2 more enemies with his 2C, and another one, most importantly, using up all of his mobility. So with all of these conditions set, we will be able to get 3 stacks right off the bat, therefore act again, while also getting instantly that 30% attack increase. So we should hit really hard with the 3C, but my commando is going to be quite underwhelming here because he's only 3 stars. So yeah, that is something really huge that you can do. Another way is just the bowling method where you just kind of have to like play it very patiently because his method of approaching does really suck. So just make sure that you're using up all of his mobility to get his passion stacks so that he gets more mobility until you see a given opportunity. And once you feel like you can do something, going in, whatever, hitting at least 1 enemy here since you got 2 stacks, maybe 3, maybe you have 1, look out for 2 enemies that you can hit or something, or most importantly, use up all of the mobility to get another stack. So let's go ahead and do all of that. So we're gonna make sure that we get all of those condition sets, and then we can just go ahead and do something like this. You know, we're gonna do the same as usual. 2 enemies this time. Go for the 2C, apply the debuff, really huge stuff, and then we're gonna go ahead and kill with the 3C, or at least that's what should happen for you guys. If you guys Captain Commando is a lot more stronger, but yeah, that's how it should be most of the time. And also, I don't want to leave this out, but the 1C, you do have the option of carrying the revive. That is something that's going to be very huge because since you do want to build him as offensively as you can so that he actually ends up getting kills, because his survivability is going to suck a lot, at least magically, right? He has good physical tanky soldiers along with defense increase. Oh, and also, before I forget, I realized I didn't show up the extra damage that he's able to do. So only if there's enemies like next to each other like this, it's not with commando. So if enemies are within 1 block of each other, once he launches his 3C, you'll be able to see the visual that it does a little bit more. It was kind of hard to tell right there, but you can see like the damage overlay each other. The numbers like stack on top of each other. But yeah, that's how that one is. So, overall, he's a very straightforward character. You're not really doing anything special with him, nothing too fancy. Just get in, blow stuff up. That's really all what he aims for because in total, he has a 40% AoE damage increase. And that's me talking if you have him at 6 stars. Plus with already how high his attack can scale, and if you find a way to buff him up, along with his 2C applying a damage down increase, I can't imagine it being very difficult for him to land kills once you have all those stuff lined up. Maybe you can get away with attack buff too. Another reason to believe that is at the Gen, which isn't too hard to work for, but it is very hard to maintain since it doesn't really last that long. I would say 5 star is where you want him to be at so that he gets a good chunk of AoE damage. Possibly 4 stars with like insane attack stats and like using the magic enchants. And also buff him up, I feel like you might need those if you're trying to use him at that state. But 5 star is where I'll say that you can start seeing him shine. The only thing that does suck is his mobility if you're not running like the wings or breeze enchants. Because one of his underlying major issue is his method of approach. It sucks because you have to eventually ramp him up for the mobility increase, which you will always have to constantly move if you want to maintain them. And the only way that he closes in is by using his 2C. That's what you're always going to be using. Gets to teleport 3 extra blocks. It's very good stuff for him. Thankfully for that, right? I would consider him the strongest AoE attacker in the game with very noticeably issues that he has. And thankfully again, he does have a revive skill to take advantage of. So yeah, I really like Captain Commando. I just like seeing things blow up. AoEs are my favorite method of attacking people. So there was no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't like him. You know, he's very good at what he does, but just has very obvious weakness that makes it kinda hard to play him. Alright, so that was Captain Commando's showcase. In PvE, all he is just a very niche character. Sure, he does have attack scaling with pretty good soldiers, they're not too bad, but he's way too focused as his AoE attacker, which rarely has a use in that area. Even though he does have single target skills, it's hardly anything. Just use other characters, they have way better utility compared to him. He hardly makes good use of it compared to PvP, because once he gets in, most likely he's gonna wreck your whole team without rolls and heals and Elma, with very big weaknesses. He has to ramp up to increase his mobility, so using him at the start is gonna really suck, and really only one approach option, which is his 2C. Like, normally it wouldn't be as bad, but what's really weird about it is how it only goes left and right. Like, I kinda don't understand that, like why can't it just be up and down? This is very weird to me, but yeah, that's really all I got. If you guys did enjoy this video, feel free to like, subscribe, want to see more, and feel free to let me know down in the comments how you guys think about Captain Commando, or if there was anything that I may have missed. So yeah, thanks for watching. You fella, see you.